I just wanted to welcome you to a rise here at RCCG, the Kings Palace, Katy, Texas. I am so happy and blessed to be with you all today. It's going to be a great day. We are going to be talking about an important thing going on here in the United States. We're going to be talking about voters, voting, and voters' education. So, the segment is really going to be focused on educating the public, specific everybody. It can apply to everybody, but we're really focusing on those in Texas, Harris County, because that is where we live. But this information you can also look up on websites. It applies to you, applies to why you should vote, and all the things that go on behind the scenes before you're able to vote. I have with me Mr. Ayo Ade and Mr. Unduka. Can you guys just go ahead and introduce yourselves?
My name is Ayoade, and then we are here to talk about election and then voters' education and why it is important for us as believers to vote. Just like the Bible says in the book of Romans 13, verse 1, that all authority is created by God, so, and then God is the one that has made those leaders to have those authorities. So it's important for us as believers also to be able to exercise our godly or God-given authority. So it's going to be an interesting time.
I'm Unduka Akpe, and I'm happy to be here to talk about voters' education, something that I'm quite passionate about and how it affects our lives on a daily basis. So I'm looking forward to you all joining us, and hopefully you learned something new today.
All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in. First question is to you, Mr. Ayade. Why is voting important? Why is this even a topic that we should be talking about in church?
Very good question. I think apart from the fact that God is the creator of government, I mean, if we look in the Bible, the first government that was ever created was by God when he established King Saul as the head of a nation. So, as believers, voting is an opportunity for us to choose leaders that God has given the opportunity to govern us. And then it's also an opportunity for us to not just choose leaders, but leaders that will make laws and laws that will affect our lives. So if we want laws that are very impactful, that has a meaning to us as believers, then we have to vote by choosing or selecting leaders that will make laws that will make life better for us. That's one. And then two, voting is also important because it's a civic duty. It's one of the things we have to do as citizens, whether you are born in America or you are a naturalized citizen, you have a right to vote. So it's a civic duty. If you don't vote, I mean, it's not a crime. I mean, you have a choice not to. But it's also very important because voting is one of the ways that you determine where your child will go to school, the roads that we have, some amenities that we get because we vote people to go into office and provide those services for us. So that's why voting to me is important.
And over to you, Mr. Akpe. Is there, or what are your positions on why voting is important?
I think a lot of times people and we who live in a community society, we undervalue the importance of voting. A lot of the people that we put in office, they create laws that affect us on a daily basis. For example, the kind of school that our children go to, what quality of education they receive. It's somebody you voted in office that actually allowed that to happen. If you're living in a subdivision or in any kind of district, it actually takes voting to expand the number of schools. I know if you're like in my subdivision right now, in my children's school district right now, there's actually a ballot initiative to build new schools. A lot of people don't know that that's how it actually happens, and then you vote to allow an increase in your taxes and all of that stuff. Or if you don't want that, you can also vote against it. But we should never really think that this is politics. It doesn't concern me because I don't do politics. Whether you do it or not, they're doing things that affect you.
All right. Like you said, some important aspects were education. Another one I would like to touch on is it affects things like highways. I didn't really know that until a couple days ago doing some research. So can you go into just a little bit in depth about how it affects our normal day to day living things like getting to work?
That's good. One of the ways voting affects or is important for us to vote is like Sharon said, um, the the way the government in Texas or in the United States is run is that counties are in charge of roads, bridges. That's their main function. That's what they do, and that's why you see some of the roads that we travel. You see FM 290, FM 529. The FM there is farm to market. So they are supposed to create roads that take goods from the farm to the market. So counties do that. Now, for when counties want to construct roads, they have to either go and take loans. But for them to take loans, nothing happened in isolation in Texas or let's say in the United States without the voters approving. So if they want to go and take loan on behalf of the voters, they have to go and ask the people that are going to be paying for the loan. That's the electorate, you and I. So they are going to ask people, they call it ballot initiative, like what Anuka said earlier. So through ballot initiative, people are asked, do you support counties going to take loan to construct roads or bridges? Yes or no? So if only 5 people show up and vote yes, and only one person show up and vote no, well, that 5 vote count because it's just 5 people that show up to vote. So if we are not participating, for example, also schools that our children attend, when it's time for them to make decisions about the textbooks that they use, the number of schools that are built, they have to put it through voting. So if we don't participate, it is those who are educated or aware that are involved that are going to take the day. So when that decision is made, we have no right to complain because if we don't participate, we have given those people who participated the right to make the decision for us.
And it's actually so interesting that you bring that up because, like you said, if only 6 people go out and vote, 6 people are making decisions for an entire county of thousands of people. And then when those initiatives are put in and we complain because we don't like them,
True.
it's like it was all on us to vote to begin with. So, going off of that question, what are the various types of elections that are held? And can you just explain a couple of them, Mr. Akpe?
So we'll talk about the primaries. There, let me see. I think there are about 3 or 4 main ones that I I know of. There's the primary. There's the general election. Then sometimes in some states, if one of the candidates doesn't get up to 50% of that, you have a runoff election, and usually that happens when there are maybe three candidates in that voters have the option to choose. And so once we don't get 50, once one of the candidates doesn't get up to 50%, there's a runoff where you get just the top 2 candidates, and then you have to get 50% plus one to win the election. And then sometimes you have a special election, and that could happen for so many reasons. One reason could be the death of a politician, and the governor would call a special election to fill that seat. Or it could also be that a politician retires for one reason or the other, maybe to get a position with the government, with a different branch of the government, and no longer intends to serve in their current position or in their current office. And so there's a special election that is also set up. Sometimes it's actually voted by the legislature of the state to determine when that election is going to hold. And those are very important. The primary is especially important because you get to select the options that all the voters get to choose from. This is one that I know a lot of people don't care about, but it's actually the most important, because if you have if you have quite a few candidates that are unfit for office, and the people that are more passionate about them go out to vote in the primary, and you just sit idly by waiting for the general election, because in a lot of things we hear is we have to choose the better of two evils. Well, it's because you didn't vote in the primaries. That's why you got two evils to choose from. If you participate in the primaries, you get to choose whether you have evils in the general or not.
Mm-hmm. Just to add to what Ranuka was just saying, a primary election is significant. It's very important because usually a lot of people don't pay attention to primary election. And once that decision is made that the person that gets the highest vote during the primary election is going to represent the entire maybe city, entire state, or entire country during the general election. So it's very important for, I mean, primary election is an opportunity where you have like 20 candidates, or depending on the number or the attractiveness of the position they are trying to contest or try to aspire to hold, where you have a lot of people, and then there has to be just one winner. And we want the best to represent us as a community, as a city, or as a nation. So it's important for us to participate in primary election. Very important.
And Mr. Ayade, for the state of Texas, has the primaries already passed? Are there upcoming dates that you can just give our viewers so that they can note them down?
Of course, our primary election is already passed. The election that right now, and that's one of the reasons why we are trying to do this, that is going to happen, is the one that is coming up in about 3 weeks from now, and that is November the 8th, 2022. That is called the general election. Now you have two candidates of two political parties, and there are some cases where you have independent candidates as well. What do I mean independent? Those are candidates who are non-affiliated to whether they are a member of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And then we have some candidates, candidates for Labour Party or Green Party as well. But those are third-party candidates because they are not really, they don't have much sway when it has to do with voting. So the November election is going to happen, like I said earlier, November 8th. That's the second Tuesday after the first Monday in November. It's very important. That's a lesson for another day. So that election is going to happen on the 8th. However, people have the opportunity to vote before the November the 8th. November 8th is in-person voting. So you have what is called early voting. And early voting is going to start tomorrow. That is October the 24th, tomorrow, Monday, October the 24th. So we have the opportunity to vote in person before election day. For people who are going to work, who are not going to be able to show up on Tuesday, November the 8th, you can vote early. It's going to start in Texas, October the 24th. And then we also have what is called mail-in ballot or absentee ballot. That is usually for people who are 65 and older. Or people who are going to be out of state. Somebody who's going to be traveling, somebody who's going on medical treatment, or you are going on military service. There has to be a major reason why. You can't just say, I'm going to work. That's not acceptable. There are reasons why, or there are some qualifications that will allow you to vote or ask for mail-in ballot. The last day to request a ballot, I think, is October the 23rd. That is this Sunday. And then the last day to return your ballot is November 8th by 7 p.m. So you must return that ballot in person. You must done it in person, and then you must make sure it is signed, your signature correspond with your signature on any form of identification you have. So those dates are very important.
And Mr. Akwe, with our mail-in ballots, can you tell us just a little bit about what that process is like? Either of you can speak to this, but what do you know about the mail-in ballot process, and how feasible is that for people who are, let's say, like travel nurses, for example, who are not currently in the state of Texas? Where would they go to pick one up, or?
I'll let the professor take it.
Okay. So mail-in ballot is it's not complicated. Usually there are people that it used to be something that people used to request. You request mail-in ballots and you get. But now, given what happened in 2020 or during the 2020 election, there have been changes. And one of the changes that they have introduced is your signature, because after you get the mail-in ballot, they are going to look at the requirement. If you meet the requirement, they are going to mail one to you. Now, after you get the mail-in ballot, it's important to follow all the instructions, because it has instructions that are listed. You must sign the mail-in ballot. Be careful. Again, I'm going to say this one more time. Be careful not to request a mail-in ballot for your spouse. Do not require mail-in ballots for your dad, for your mom. Of course, you can help them sit in front of a computer to request, but make sure they are the one who are requesting for mail-in ballots. And then also, endeavor that they are the ones that are going to sign. Sign. date the mail-in ballot, because if it is not signed, whatever choices or voting choices they have made is going to be invalid.
You guys have heard a lot of information, and there's just a little bit more to go, but we're going to go ahead and go on a very, very short break. So if you need, grab some water, grab some water. If you need, grab your phone, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, just so you can write stuff down if you need to, and we'll be right back.
What then is the meaning of no venture, no gain? It means if you won't take a chance, you can't expect to achieve anything. It also means if one takes no risk, one will not gain any benefit. He says you will never reap if you fail to sow. Now, the button to the next phase at times may come with a risk. That button that you need to activate to the next phase at times may come with a risk. Now, according to Hudson Taylor, a British missionary, he said, unless there is an element of risk in our exploits for God, there is no need for faith. There's a tendency to either be stagnant or maintain a routine, except you take the risk of change.
To listen to the concluding part of this message and other inspiring messages, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at King's Palace TV and follow our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You are also invited to join us this Sunday virtually via YouTube and Facebook, or physically at 5371 East 5th Street, Katy, Texas 77493. Our first service, Hour of Power, is at 9 a.m. and our second service, Glory to Glory, is at 10 a.m. We are waiting to welcome you.
And we are back. So we were talking about the mail-in ballot process. Is there anything else that you would like to add on to that?
One of the things to take note or be aware of is if your parents have appended their signature, now they need to drop off their ballot. So there are no ballot drop-off location anymore in Texas. So now they have the designated ballot drop-off, and that is maybe at Harris County tax collector's office or Fort Bend tax collector's office. So you have to drive our grandparent or whoever is using the mail-in ballot. You can't just go and mail it right now. If you want to do, you have to drive them to the location. That's what I mean. And then you are not allowed to go and drop off ballot for an individual. We call it in America ballot harvesting. That used to be the practice, but now it is illegal in Texas. So that individual has to take his or her ballot. If you drive them in the car, drive them to the drop-off location, let them walk in by themselves, drop off their ballot. They are going to verify their signature. And then if they find out that it is, signed or dated, and then they let them go. So endeavor that your ballot gets to the office by November 8th, 7 p.m. That's when the election is going to close.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So one of my final questions will be, what are the requirements for you to vote? Because I know we've talked about the process, so now what are the requirements needed for you to vote?
Very important, very significant question. And then it's also important for all of us to be aware. When we are talking about election or voting, we are talking about people who are citizens of the United States, not permanent residents of the United States. When I say permanent resident, I mean people who are here on green card. They are not allowed to vote, because if they do, that's a crime. So we are talking about citizens of the United States. So for you to vote in Texas, not just in Texas, in the United States, but I want to focus on Texas specifically because we are in Texas. For you to vote in Texas, first you must be a citizen of the United States. That's check one. You must be 18 years and older. That's check two. And then you must be a resident of Texas for 30 days. In other words, you must have been living in Texas for 30 days. And the reason why they want you to prove that you are a resident is if you have paid the utility bill in the past 30 days that you live in Texas, whether you live in somebody's house or you live in you must have like a residential address. So they want you to prove that. That's 30 days. And then you must be a resident of a county. You can't just say I live in Texas. You have to vote in your county. So you must be able to have a residence in a particular county, maybe Harris County, Fort Bend County, Conroe. I mean, depending on, you must be Montgomery, you must be a resident of a county to vote. And then the final one, which I think is, I'm sorry, there is another one. You must have a voter's ID, of course, to vote in Texas. But this one is very, very significant because there have been implications of people who have been sent to jail because they have no information or they have no idea they were not supposed to vote. And that is, if you are convicted of felony charge, like felony is a major crime. It's a crime that somebody has committed that is major, and that person was convicted and that person went to jail, or that person got like financial punishment. If the sentence involved that person serving jail time, or not necessarily serving jail time, your punishment is a fine of $200,000, and then you are going to be on probation for 2 years. Or the person went to jail, 5 years in prison, and the person was already in prison for 2 years. Now, the state of Texas, not just in Texas, some states have what they call parole. They let you go home early. So instead of completing your jail sentence for 5 years in prison, they let you go home after 2 years. Now, the remaining 3 years, you must wait. You must have completed the 3 years waiting period or parole at home before you go and register to vote. If you go and register to vote and you say, oh, because I'm a citizen, and they see a felony charge that you are still serving a sentence of a felony, you go and vote, that person will go to jail for between the minimum of 5 years or 7 years, depending on the state or the judge. So there have been a case, there are cases like that. But there's one that I remember in Texas, a lady, African American, that went and voted. She wasn't supposed to vote. She didn't know. A parole officer informed her she's a citizen, now she's eligible to vote. But she thought she was eligible to vote. She registered, she voted. In fact, she didn't even vote. What she did is she went on election day, got a paper ballot, made her choices. Her vote was not even counted. But the fact that she signaled her intention of voting and then she marked the ballot, it was counted for her as a crime. So she was sentenced back to jail for 7 years. So be careful. Be careful. We need to know, we need to educate ourselves. Am I qualified? And then also, I think another thing that is important, if you move from one county to another, please endeavor to vote in your county. Don't move from Harris to Fort Bend or move from Fort Bend to Harris County. You need to vote in your county. If you go and vote in Fort Bend and you live in Harris County, that's a crime.
Wow, so that is important information that we're learning about today. Anybody with a felony charge, make sure that the entirety of your sentence is completed, regardless of if you're back home on parole or not. And so it's just really important. The main points that I've heard us talk about today is being an informed voter. I think that's one of the major things that we've hit on. And being informed isn't just being informed about the process, it's also being informed about who you are voting for, regardless of the party that they're running on. So a quick question to that: when you go in and you're voting, can you pick regardless of a party, or do you choose, or do you have to vote on one, like on an entirety of a party? Mr. Akbe, Mr. Ayade?
So I think in the past, you could actually just select the party, but in Texas, they changed that, I think before the 2020 election. So you have to manually select for every office, you have to manually select who you want to vote for. I remember when I voted in, I think it was 2016, you could just say I want to vote for all the Republicans or all the Democrats, but they took that away.
Okay.
So what Ainuka is saying is called straight ticket or ticket ballot voting. so people have no idea about the candidate, and then they just vote based on party affiliation or relationship. And then there are people who also do split ticket voting. So you vote for, let's say, a Republican for the president, and then you vote for a Democrat as the governor. That's split ticket. Now you are voting for candidate from two parties. But as you said, there have been reforms. Now the reform that have been introduced, especially following the 2020 election, is now you have candidate's name. So it's also important for us to try and research. We are going to be sharing more of that on the church WhatsApp or social media forum for people that want to have find out what candidate to vote for. it's important for us to know the candidate, because you can't just say I want to vote, because right now it's going to be difficult for you to be able to say I want to vote for all Republicans. They've changed that. So you have to know the name, they put the position that person is aspiring for, and then the name of the candidate in front. And then in front of their name, I think they put maybe R, that stands for Republican, and then in front of the other candidate or other party candidate, D for Democrat, or L for Libertarian, and then I think G for Green Party candidate, etc., etc. So there are no Republican or Democrat. No. What they have now is the office and the candidate that are running, so you have to be able to make a choice or choose one.
All right. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. We're going to have more conversations about this, honestly, and I think it's really important that we inform our community, specifically the Nigerian community, African community as a whole, because we are a huge part of the society, and especially here in Houston, everywhere you turn, you see a Nigerian, African, Congolese. But thank you guys so much for being with us today. We will leave our comment section down below open if you have any questions, because we would like to filter and see what information you're missing, and if we can fill those out in upcoming segments, that would be really nice. If you have any questions, leave them down. If you have any of our numbers, or honestly any administrative numbers, they would probably guide you to us, the right parties, to answer your questions. So please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, share our YouTube channel. We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, we have many WhatsApp groups for you to join. So if you know somebody, if you just have a friend that goes to this church and you say, hey, I'm looking to join a group, I have a couple of questions to ask, they'll give you our numbers. We're really invested in making sure that everybody gets the correct information that they need. So if you need, what is the website, Mr. Akwe, for those who want to learn more about voting in general?
It's vote.org for general information, and that applies to anyone in the United States. And I believe it's votetexas.org.
Yes.
For those that are in Texas.
Yes. So you've heard it here, vote.org if you live in the United States but not in Texas, and votetexas.org to find out more about Texas. So thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful day.